Hi guys, I'm Frankie.
And I'm Cheyenne.
And we are
Conbini Cult.
Back with another spooky episode for October.
Yeah. I got
Unfortunately.
dragged into it. No.
For Cheyenne.
It's going to be fun. I'm learning so many new lore and stories. So
Yeah.
And I've got a buddy here today. If you're watching on YouTube, we have our little special guest.
Skeleton guy.
Yeah. What's his name?
I don't know.
Steve.
Steve, okay. That works.
How's your week? Anything new?
Yeah, I don't really have any life updates, but
No?
I did want to say, because we talked in a previous episode about the term gaijin hunter. So a Japanese person who is only looking to date foreigners.
Yes.
Kind of to practice English, but they're just obsessed with foreigners.
Yeah.
But I was wondering if there's a word for the opposite, like somebody who's seeking out only Japanese people and they're coming to Japan to find like a spouse or something.
Yeah.
That
isn't yellow fever.
Well, I don't
that is
know
a
if they would use
Japanese
that
word.
here.
Yeah.
So I asked my partner and he didn't even know what gaijin hunter was.
Oh,
so
okay.
He said he has no idea if there's a word for the opposite.
Honestly, very impressive and good for him. I think it's probably better that he did not know what that word meant. Because if, you're like, the word gaijin hunter, and if he was just like, yes,
me.
yes, automatically, then that would be more worrisome. So
Yeah.
Good job.
That's true. Do you have anything interesting to share before we get started?
Interesting to share? No, I know this episode's probably coming out in October, so that's my birthday month.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm a Scorpio, if anyone is into that stuff. But
Yes.
yeah, I really, really love the month of October just for not only birthday stuff, but Halloween stuff, mild Halloween stuff.
Yep.
So yeah, that's my only update. Just looking forward to my birthday. I'm going to be ending my 20s, entering
oh my gosh,
my
a new era.
30s. Literally a new era for me. So
Welcome to the club.
yeah, I'm excited. Yeah. So yeah, that's my only update. Just looking forward to that.
Okay, I have a few words of the day,
Okay.
which will be relevant to our stories.
Mhm.
So the first one,
Obake or obake?
Obake.
Obake. I
obake,
don't know the pronunciation. Okay. Yeah.
ghost.
Ghost.
Yeah. And then we have shinrei spotto,
Yeah.
which is a haunted place.
And yure,
Yeah.
so a ghost or a spirit. Yes.
Yeah. So we're going to be talking about spooky encounters. So we do have a few listener stories, and then I
Okay.
found some really creepy ones on Reddit as well. So
Okay.
it should be a wild ride.
Yeah. Did we talk about in the last episode about how Japan is very not spiritual. Yeah. Like, do they really believe in like ghosts and stuff? Did we mention that before?
I don't think so, but
do people know that? Yeah.
now you know.
Now you know. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of they love their ghost stories.
Yeah,
here.
there's a lot of ghost stories,
Yeah.
a lot of places said to be haunted,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of even like power spotto is also a thing. Not even like scary necessarily, but just a place with very high spiritual energy.
Oh, yeah. Makes sense. Okay.
So-
yeah, good to know.
Okay.
I want to go there.
Have you ever had a creepy or spooky ghostly experience here?
Yes, I have. Did I not talk about this already?
You did briefly,
Yeah.
but I just want to see if you had
Yeah.
any more details to share.
To share about my scary haunted apartment.
Yeah. Where was it, by the way? Chiba?
Yeah, it was in Chiba. If
Okay.
anyone lives out there, shout out Chiba. It's haunted. No, but this was when I was living in Chiba City
Mhm.
a few years ago. And I was just kind of, it like matters to the story, I guess. So based on my budget, the kind of apartment I was able to afford was just very old.
Mhm.
I'm sure that applies to, no matter where you live, but the older the building, probably the cheaper it's going to be, especially in
That's true.
Japan.
Yeah.
And just Japan in general, a lot of buildings here are just old. And so based on the budget I was working with, the apartment I was living in was built in the 70s.
Mhm.
And it just the layout of it was very, 70s Japan, urban mansion or not high rise, but apartment core, It used to have a fountain in the lobby. You can tell there was some area where water used to be. Now it's all dusty, probably moldy. There's no water in it. It just looks like someone has not maintained that building on the outside for a long time. And it kind of reflected on the inside too. I'm not saying I lived in a shanty or anything, but just the building was very old. But the apartments on the inside themselves were like, you know, most renovated, or they were just like clean. You know, I like if the inside looked as gnarly as the outside, I wouldn't like live there, if that makes sense.
Okay.
But yeah, so I used to live in that apartment for 2 years, and yeah, like ever since living in there, I felt like a kind of like a spirit, or just like this presence above me every time I slept. And I think I've talked about this before, but I used to, I'm not I used to, I am still afraid of the dark a little bit at my big age. So just every time it came time to sleep, I could just like feel like some kind of, I don't know, energy around me. And actually, to backtrack a little bit, when I used to live in another part of Chiba, again, the apartment was pretty old. I had a cat at the time. Oh. And that apartment, it had like, my bedroom was a tatami room. Mm-hmm. So the closet was like one of those like oshide, like the sliding doors and stuff. So there was a lot of space in there. Oh. And my cat every night would sit in front of the closet and look up into the closet and just meow all night.
Oh, that's not creepy
and
at
like
all.
And you know how like I'm a firm believer that animals can really sense you know, danger or things or presence or whatever. So like she did that for like 2 years or a year and a half, and that was really, really scary. And then that same like dark energy followed me, I guess, to the old apartment in Chiba City I was just talking about. Oh. Yeah, so it could all have been in my head, but I do have a friend who she's one of those people that can, what do you call it, like she can
like a
sense.
Sixth sense?
Yeah, like she can like sense, you know, the paranormal. Susceptible. Yeah, she's really sensitive to that stuff, and she came over to hang out.
What was the word? Yukon?
Yes, Daycon. And I remember Daycon now because they sound like the Raycon earbuds. You just have like the Daycon and you're there like
sensing the spiritual energy
with your Raycon earbuds. So like she had like that Daycon about her, and whenever she came to that apartment, she told me like, yeah, there's an angry man in here. It's like, that is my worst nightmare ever. So yeah, I do believe that is my most recent, I would say, spooky encounters. I saw some things when I was like a kid too, but again, like I was a kid, so I can't remember if that was like an actual thing I saw or I was just being scared, you know? But yeah.
So that angry man didn't follow you to Osaka?
I don't think so, because the apartment I live in now, it's it was like not shimpin, but like new. It was like newer. Like it was built the year my boyfriend and I moved in, actually. Okay. So there was no one there prior to us living in there. So we're the first tenants ever. So
well, the land could be haunted.
Yeah, I mean, we are next to a temple.
A cemetery?
No, if we were next to a cemetery, I'd be like, yeah, I'm moving out. Like I would have lived, all right, wouldn't have moved in with him. But no, it's next to not a cemetery, not a temple, a shrine. Yeah, it's there. So who knows? It could be built on some haunted stuff. Did it just start raining outside?
It sounds like rain, or is it the air con?
I don't know. I'm getting scared. Yeah, so my apartment now, it's okay. It's safe. I'm just still scared of the dark. How about you?
I've had spooky encounters before, but in Japan specifically. So I've been to a lot of haunted places in Japan.
Like willingly,
on purpose.
Okay. And?
Because I like making videos about the places, and I want to actually be there. I don't want to just talk about these things. I want to go there and see what it's like.
Fair.
Yeah, so I went to this abandoned hotel in Kyoto, which is haunted as well.
Is it like a famously abandoned haunted hotel?
Yes.
Okay. Are there other like YouTube videos about it and stuff?
Probably.
Okay.
At least like probably in Japanese. I'm not sure if any other foreign content creators have been there.
Too sure. I know that's just like a specific kind of content that people get into. Sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to know. Okay.
But there's a lot of abandoned places in Japan, and like, I don't know, sometimes people make up stories about them to say that they're haunted as well, just for the thrill, I guess. So yeah, this place was apparently haunted. Like it went out of business, and then the owner set himself on fire or something.
Oh, so okay.
Yeah.
It just started raining really hard. I think it's raining like really hard right now. Okay, it's like you're setting the mood, I guess.
Insert rain sounds. Okay. But yeah. So I went with 2 friends. So it was the 3 of us, but it was a pretty big hotel. So we were on the same floor, but we were all separated, like exploring on our own a little bit. And I was wearing a hat because it was in the summer. So you know the kind of hats that have the net over it to block out like mosquitoes and stuff?
Yeah. Okay. The mesh thing?
Yes, the mesh cover. Yeah. So I was wearing that, but I had the mesh cover pulled over my head because it's hard to see when you're wearing it. So I was just filming something, and then all of a sudden the mesh cover, like something pulled it over my face, and I thought one of my friends did it, but they were completely on the other side of the floor. Okay. Of the hotel floor.
And yeah, I don't know if you guys can hear it in the mics, but as soon as Frankie said that, this like all of this rain just came in, like it but really matched the vibe of your
set the ambiance of the video.
Yeah. I was just saying, like,
so yeah,
somebody good timing.
Somebody pulled my hat over my face.
I don't like that. And okay, so you know, you don't get as easily scared as me, you know, but in that moment, what was going through your head? Like, how did you feel?
I felt a bit panicked.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Okay, so you thought it was your friend. You look around. No one is there, right? Was there. And then so, like, I know you're feeling panic, but, like, what is going through your mind? Did you scream? Or did you just have, like, a... You know when you're, like, really scared?
My heart was
you're
racing.
Like, you know? Oh,
yeah, okay. That was all.
You didn't, like, run to your friends or, like...
I walked to them.
Oh, my God, Frankie. Okay.
Yeah. And I was like, was there a burst of wind or something? And they were like, no. Okay. I mean, even if it was the wind, it probably would have just knocked the hat off my head completely, not pulled the net perfectly over my head. Face. Over my face.
Oh my God. Yeah. Even in times of like haunting, you are still the calmest person I know. I would have like, I don't know, pooped my pants and like go into what is it called, like fight or flight, and just like defecated myself and crawled into a ball and then just see where it takes me from there. Yeah.
But I don't think that ghosts can hurt you because there have been so many terrible things in this world. So if ghosts could really hurt you, they would have already. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess that's true. But just, I don't know. Like,
well, I guess they can scare you and then you fall down the steps or something.
Yeah, I think like they can literally scare you to death. Like if they're gonna kill you, they might scare me to death at least. I don't know. Like, well, what do you think? Because if the force can like put that net over your head,
that's true.
Then like, can they not
push me out a window?
Push you out a window or like fling a chair across the room, you know? And
true.
So, okay. Well, that's a good start into our creepy episode.
That's my only real experience. So, okay, let's get into some of these stories. Okay. So the first one is from a listener. So I would like you to read this one.
Okay. So my first time ever seeing this. So let's get started.
Okay.
So it was like 12 to 1 a.m. and we were trying to get into Shimane, and we were far into the middle of nowhere. Not even a konbini for hours. No houses around, just deep forest. Finally, we found a michi no eki, so like a rest stop. So we naturally stopped because we were car camping. It was late and we wanted to sleep. When I walked in, it was just an odd feeling. I noticed that the lights were sensor lights and they were off until we walked in. But one of the stalls in the girls' restroom was locked from the inside. There's no way to lock them from the outside because they're full room stalls with no keyholes, which I thought was weird, but not too weird. I went pee and I suddenly just felt that feeling like someone was in the room. You know that feeling? It was really uncomfortable. So I hurried up and went to leave, but as I did, I swear I heard a woman's voice. Just softly. Being worried it might be a woman in trouble, I lightly knocked on the locked stall door. Once I knocked, I was met with a deafening silence, one that feels like someone is listening for you while you're listening for them. Not hearing anything, I tried once more, but nothing happened and the urge to leave hit me hard. I swiftly headed for the exit, meeting my husband right by the door. I didn't want to say anything until we got to the car, so I just said, "I'm ready to go." He agreed and we started back towards the car. As we get close to the car, we hear a sound that we both thought might have been a walkie-talkie maybe? Like a voice through static noise. It was really creepy hearing it from the pitch black forest. We both quickened our pace and left without saying anything. Once we got further down the road, we tried to stop again, but when my husband stepped out of the car, we heard footsteps in the woods, and I've never seen that man jump into the car faster. Then our headlights went out, except for the high beams. The whole night just felt off. I felt like we were being followed. There were some other things too, but finally we reached a point after nearly an hour of driving where the bad feeling just lifted. We both at the same time said, "Doesn't it feel better now?" The next place we stopped was so peaceful and quiet. We slept until the next morning, and we discovered how beautiful the location we slept was. Near a waterfall with giant mountains and beautiful wildlife. Maybe the forest spirits were watching out for us. We didn't even discuss how effing creepy it all was until we got to the peaceful stopping point and realized we were both feeling the same things and we heard the same thing too.
Ooh,
the end.
Creepy.
Yeah.
So somewhere in the middle of nowhere in Shimane Prefecture.
Mm-hmm. If you're out there in Shimane, be careful, I guess. Yeah, because like, especially when you're alone like that, in the middle of the night, surrounded by nothing, like, yeah, it's so easy to think imagine you're hearing things and imagine things. But that
they
bathroom,
they
both heard the same thing, and they were in separate areas, right? I mean, they both went to the bathroom, which I'm assuming were like separate areas too. That bathroom stall thing like freaked me out.
That's really creepy.
I do not like that, especially because I don't know if this is like more or less creepy, but in Japan, unlike I don't know about other countries, but like unlike the US where public bathroom stalls kind of stop at like your knees, you can see people's feet so you can check underneath. But in Japan, it's like literally ceiling to floor almost.
Yeah.
So she couldn't have like checked to see if anyone was in there. If
that's
like
true.
Someone was in trouble. And maybe that's like for the best because now like my fear and my imagination is like, you know, in scary movies where you like look under the bed or you look under something and someone's like face is there. That's like all I'm thinking about right now. And I'm freaking myself out. So yeah.
Okay.
Ah, that's scary.
Okay.
Well, like, arieru. I can just like believe that happening, you know? Like that's too scary for me. I'm glad you guys are safe and everything.
Okay. The next one is a pretty long story.
Okay.
I found this on Reddit. r/true scary stories.
Ooh, okay.
From 2 years ago.
Okay.
It's called A Really Creepy Experience I Had in Japan.
Okay.
A pretty creepy experience I had back in the early 2000s in Japan. A little background on me for context. I grew up as a biracial military brat and spent the better part of 2 decades growing up in Japan. Having spent years growing up in Japan and in the US, I can confidently say that there is something different when it comes to talk of paranormal or strange experiences. I imagine that many on the subreddit may be familiar with how spooky Asian stories have come in the last 20 years or so. So read on to hear about some of the strangest occurrences I have encountered. During my late teens to early 20s, my social circle and I had a naive obsession with exploring places in Japan known for paranormal activities, urban legends, and investigating creepy areas. This was prior to advent of reality television really blowing up like ghost hunting TV shows. In Japan, shows like this would broadcast regularly in the summer. Like October is the witching season for Western cultures, the month of August is for Japan. This was our motivation for partaking in these excursions. So here's my story. As a military brat who grew up in Japan while attending school on a US military installation, I graduated in the early 2000s. Following graduation, most of my graduating class moved back to the US to pursue college or start their adult lives. Most would leave and never return to Japan. My parent is Japanese, so I had every reason to return. It was December, and I had just returned home to Japan after my fall semester at college. To my relief, a couple of my friends chose to remain in Japan after high school, so I had friends to hang out with while home on vacation. One evening, I'm out joyriding with my buddies. We had nowhere important to be and just driving around aimlessly. Occasionally, we stopped by popular hangout spots for young adults, hoping to meet some cute Japanese girls to flirt with, as how else would a couple of young 19-year-old dudes want to spend an evening? My friend, which I will call Jay, had a Nissan Silvia, aka 240SX, outside of Japan for you car folks.
Okay.
And he was obsessed with drifting. Truth be told, he wasn't good at it.
Oh.
You couldn't really fault the guy for trying, though. That evening, he suggested that we take off to Asamizo Park, near our hometown of Sagamihara, as this large public park had many parking lots peppered throughout its grounds. The lots were prime locations for him to practice whipping his car around while not causing damage or fender benders. Without hesitation, we all agree and head that direction.
Okay, Tokyo Drift.
About 20 minutes later, and we're passing the main entrance to Asamizo. During the day, this is a pleasant public park that many people recreate at. Japan, in comparison to other countries, is a relatively safe country. This park was no exception to that notion. However, it did have some unfortunate events happen there. I will elaborate on this more later. After driving into the park for about 7 minutes, we reached the first parking lot. It was around 10 o'clock at night. We pull in and park. I hopped out of the car and pulled out a fresh pack of cigarettes and lit one up. That evening was brisk. I gazed around, letting my night vision calibrate as the lights far off in the distance twinkled. My other friend with us, R, also lit a cigarette, and we proceed to have a conversation about whether Jay would be able to even get his car sideways. Jay pulls out and begins to whip his car around the parking lot. As Jay's car spun counterclockwise, the wailing of his tires attempting to grip the asphalt broke the silence in the evening. Even now, I can close my eyes and still remember the smell of burning rubber. Adjacent to the parking lot was a tree line that led into some thick brush and wooded area. The park was known for its greenbelt scattered throughout it. I remember looking over my shoulder a few times that evening because I had this feeling that we were being watched from the woods. But each time I scanned the tree line, I saw nothing out of the ordinary. What happened next would cause me to jump so hard that I laugh even now when thinking about it.
Okay.
The cell phone in my right pocket starts ringing and vibrating, and I jumped with a fright. The fact that light paranoia had set in from watching the tree lines did not help with the anxiety experienced from the unexpected phone call. As I was attending college in the States and only back on vacation, I no longer had a cell phone in Japan. In fact, my younger sister had lent her phone to me so that I could be reached if necessary. I pulled the phone out thinking that she or my mother was calling for something, as none of my friends even had this number. I looked down at the green backlit LCD screen and saw displayed in Japanese was a restricted number. I thought it was strange, but figured maybe my sister was calling from a public phone. Yes, those were still a thing back then. I answered the phone and said, "Moshi moshi." That's how you answer a phone in Japanese. And there was nothing but silence for a response. I remembered hearing a bit of static, and then finally I heard the voice of a Japanese girl. My immediate thoughts were this must be a friend of my sister, so I explained that I'm her brother and borrowing her phone for the evening. If she needed to get a hold of my sister, she should ring the house. She apologized, and I reassured her that no harm had been done and then promptly ended the phone call. I placed the cell phone back in my pocket and focused back to the ruckus of noise coming from Jay's car. It must have not been 10 minutes later. The cell phone in my back pocket began ringing again. This time I was sure that it had to be my sister or mother. Earlier that day, I left home and didn't say where I was going or when I planned on returning home. It wasn't uncommon for my mother or sister to call and ask if I had eaten dinner and if they should leave out food for me when I return. I pulled the phone out, and once again, I have a phone call, and it was from a restricted number. I answered the phone, and this time the voice of the same Japanese girl was on the other end of the phone call. Before I could ask why she was calling for my sister, she cut me off. Now, based off the previous phone call, I thought there were a couple funny things. I know most of my sister's friends and could recognize their voice over the phone. This girl, on the other hand, I did not. Additionally, my sister never mentioned anything about new friends, and her circle was tight. She wasn't very big on being a social butterfly, but perhaps I was wrong. My sister is 3 years junior to me, and so my assumption was this girl had to be around my sister's age and too young for me. I had very little interest in engaging in conversation with her. As she probed me with questions, I kept my answers vague. I don't even know why I continued to entertain a conversation with her, but hanging up would just be rude. Suddenly, she asked what I was doing in a park so late in the evening. I almost began to answer when it dawned on me. I did not mention anything about where I was at or what I was doing. I told her I never said I was at a park. She lightly giggled and tried to play it off, insisting she thought I said I was at a park. I told her this was weird and that I had to go, and hung up. Jay grew tired of drifting in this parking lot. He pulled up to us from the driver's side and suggested we change the scenery. R and I hopped back in the vehicle, and off we went. Now at another parking lot, we hop out and Jay continues to do his thing. This parking lot had soccer fields not too far from it, and the lamps in the parking lot painted an orange hue, which was a bit comforting. Oddly enough, the feeling of being watched returned to me. I swung around to my right and stared at the empty field on the other side of the parking lot fence. There was nothing. At this point, Jay parks his car and shuts it off. Now silence and a thin film of burnt rubber veiled the parking lot. Jay starts asking what was up with the phone calls. I began to explain to Jay and R what transpired. They both agreed that it was a little strange, but speculated that maybe my sister mentioned to her friends that her older brother was back in town. Jay proceeds to tease me that I should start talking to the chick, but I protest because I have no interest. Suddenly, my phone rings again. Same deal, restricted phone number, and same girl. This time she sounds a bit more aggressive. How come you left? What was wrong with the last spot? I asked what she meant. She then says, you left the last parking lot you were just at. I remember the hairs standing on the back of my neck. I made it a point to be vague and never mentioned what I was doing or where I was at. Yet somehow this girl knew what I was doing and knew that we had left the first parking lot. Something didn't feel right, so I hung up on her. A moment later, my phone is blowing up. I answer again, this time irate. What do you want? There's silence, and then I hear light static. In a sort of hushed manner, I hear her voice. I'm at the field. I see you. I spin around and face the field looking for any sign of a person. I remember my heart racing a bit as I fumble to figure out what exactly is going on. What do you mean you see me at the field? I asked. She tells me that she sees me standing with my friends, wearing my gray jacket and my buddy's car. She tells me that she's coming over to us and wants to hang out. The line goes dead. I look at both Jay and R and give a rundown on what she just said. They both had weird looks on their faces, and I know them well enough to know when they're lying or pulling my leg. They both just look clueless. My phone rings again. Hey, I'm almost there. Will you wait for me? The girl asked. Huh? No, what's going on here? Why do you keep asking me questions? How do you know where I am? Just who are you anyway? I know all of my sister's friends and I don't recognize your voice, I exclaimed. I never said I knew your sister, she replied in a hushed manner. At this point, I was like, WTF. I look back at the field and I don't see anything. As I'm still on the phone with her, I asked where she was at. She said she would be there shortly. I'm sure my friend sensed the panic in my voice. Jay goes on about how nobody knows we're effing out here. How does this chick seem to have our location? Mind you, this is 2000 and social media, internet 2.0 and smartphones are not a thing yet. People just can't get your location like that. On top of that, we're a few kilometers out of the way. You don't just randomly run into people like that. The evening is getting later as it is past 11 p.m. and I have no explanation as to what is going on. My phone rings again, and before I can even answer hello, she asks if I can see her. I'm spinning and jerking like a laundry machine agitator at this point. Both of my friends decided that this is too weird. R yanks the phone from my hand and proceeds to speak with her as well. I should explain that we all speak Japanese. Although I'm telling the story in English, all the conversations that are happening are in Japanese. R, feeling like this is a joke, decided to toy with her a bit. He starts to ask her what she's wearing. She begins explaining something to him. From what I can hear, how he responds. He then asks her what color her undergarments are, and then she abruptly hangs up. R tells me he thinks he annoyed her enough that she may not bother calling again. We all nervously chuckle as we cannot even begin to understand what had just transpired. My phone blows up again. Same deal, restricted call. I answer again, this time upset, but I'm cut off. Her voice is much louder now. I could hear what sounded like wind in the background. She begins saying that she's quickly approaching us, yelling to not leave her. She wants to be with us. All of a sudden, I hear Jay drop a soda can as he faces the field. What the F is that? I remember Jay saying in disbelief. I hang up the phone. I look at both of my friends and Jay motions to jump in the car. We all jump in and he stomps on the gas as we make our escape. My phone rings again. I look, and although I don't want to answer, I feel as though I need to. I take the call and I can hear her voice. It sounds slightly huskier. She casually said, "It's a shame that you all left before I could reach you." Jay is driving frantically from the park. At the time, I had no idea where he was taking us. It was just quiet in the car as I held the phone up to my ear. "Oh, well, I guess I'll just need to follow you all to the Family Mart that you're going to stop at," she said as she gave a creepy laugh. I then replied, "What the hell do you mean by the Family Mart that we're going to?" Before I realized it, Jay had cut the wheel hard and pulled to the side of the road and threw his four-way hazard lights and brought the car to a sudden stop. R damn near hit the dashboard, sitting in shotgun seat. Jay turned and looked at me. I can still remember the white look on his face. He then quietly asked, "How did she know I was taking us to Family Mart?" Family Mart is a Japanese convenience store chain found throughout Japan. I hung the phone up and then powered it off. We sat in silence for a moment there. This felt like a weird dream or something. I told Jay, let's go somewhere else. Shortly after, we drove to a 24-hour restaurant that was our hangout spot where many of our Japanese friends frequented. We just wanted somewhere brightly lit and somewhat crowded to chill out. As we walked up to the entrance, I could see some friends occupying a booth. We walked in and then proceeded to join the party. After we ordered some coffee, we started explaining our strange occurrence. Initially, everyone listened on with excitement, but as I explained the story, the look of excitement written on everyone's face eventually faded and it got awkwardly quiet. Another female friend of mine who sat across from me, I'll call her A-chan, looked at me and asked again whereabouts in the park we were at. As she asked me this, I could see her make eye contact with her boyfriend, H. He pulled out a cigarette and lit it just as he went into his explanation. Then he began to explain, You guys You all do know what happened in Asamizo Park, right? We all exchange a blank glance. Continuing, there was an incident that happened in the park one evening where a girl was walking through the park in the evening. Someone approached her and dragged her into the greenbelt where she was R-worded and strangled. I heard some rumors about some bad juju associated with the area. In disbelief, I scoffed. You're joking, right? Without any hesitation, he looked at me and said, nope, but we need to go to a shrine. Her spirit may have latched on to you.
Huh? Okay.
Yeah.
And were there any like...
There's an update to this story.
Okay, yeah, I was going to say, is it like...
It just ends on like...
Such a...
kind of a cliffhanger.
Like a cliffhanger? Oh. Our friend Steve is falling down. It ends on a cliffhanger and like... This person is such a good storyteller. I was like hooked from the beginning. I was like watching everything in my head, and it was long, but like the details and everything, it all
I think those
sense.
details were necessary.
Yeah, they're very necessary. Okay, I got like the chills. And you notice we're done reading it and the rain stopped? It's like really quiet now. I'm gonna go home and take a bath in salt, like pure salt or Hawaiian salt, and bless myself. Okay. Yeah, what's the update or what are the comments?
You want to read the update? It's right here.
Sure. So many folks have requested an update and everyone deserves some conclusion to this story. So here you go. I realize now that I left the story on quite an unintentional cliffhanger. I forget to take into account that not everyone in the audience may have had a similar upbringing as myself. Picking up where I left the story off, my friends and I definitely thought that something took interest in me. I didn't receive any further calls. I'm sure you can understand I had no desire to return to that park to test any further theories. I'm sure... Oh, I just read that sentence. Not even during daylight. It was just too bizarre and unexplainable. It really frightened me down to the core. I was just an 18-year-old kid at the time. I went and visited a local shrine and explained that what had occurred and was just concerned that I may have inadvertently attracted a yurei, so like we said, a ghost, unable to pass into the afterlife. The Shinto priest proceeded to perform a purification on me. I also got a protective amulet to carry with me, if you believe in that sort of thing. After seeking help from the shrine, I never received a phone call. My sister never received a phone call from a restricted number. I avoided the park for the rest of my time during that vacation. I did return to the park a few years later. It's funny because although I forgot or suppressed those memories, it came back to me when I returned. This time it was during a pleasant afternoon, and no, I never received a call. Perhaps the yurei passed on, or perhaps it sought after another unfortunate person. Who knows? Okay, you like picked up on the cliffhanger, but he kind of ended it on like another not a cliffhanger, but like a very suspenseful, thought-provoking ending. That is nuts.
So what happened to the girl's spirit?
I don't know. And this name of the park is called Asamizo Park.
Yeah.
Did you look up, like, we should look up an article and see if, not like I'm doubting, you know, if this event happened, but like if there's a news article at the time or if there's any like, oh, it's like quite a large park. We're looking at it on Google now.
Where is Sagamihara? Is it Kanagawa?
Kanagawa area, yeah.
Yes, Kanagawa.
Yeah. All you need to know before you go.
He said he was a military kid.
Yeah. So what is the base out there? Zama, maybe? Zama? Whatever military base is like out there. So it makes sense for like... Yokosuka, that's probably what it is. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that makes sense.
Yeah. Like incidents. Oh, okay. Frankie's looking up the... Guarantee it's like in Japanese, yeah. This also took place in the year 2000, so like almost 25 years ago. So I don't know if there's going to be any recent English articles on it, considering the time. But if we look, can I look it up and see, like, really quickly? Where's your Japanese keyboard? I wonder if it's like too old to bring up, or if it's like neighborhood lore or something. I can't even find like a news article of it on it.
But if it was in like the late 90s or early 2000s, maybe there was not something on the,
like
the
online,
internet about it.
Right. Like,
it might have just been a physical newspaper.
Because even though this happened in 2000, that doesn't mean it like the girls incident happened in 2000, right? Okay, I see what you mean. Yeah. Maybe if you go to like, your local library, we can look at the newspaper archives, but I'm good. Respect. I hope you like, what do you call it? What do you call like when spirits pass on here? Jobu? Not Jobu.
Oh, I'm not sure.
There's a word for it. I had to like say it at a haunted house one time in Odaiba.
Oh, okay.
Do you know what haunted house that is? It's like it takes place. We can get into it later. We have stories to go through, but it takes place at an elementary school and it's creepy. Okay. Yeah. Great like storytelling. Yeah. I just like
very good storytelling.
Really did not like the reality behind it or whatever you want to call it, but oh man.
Yeah. Well, wild. I hope that her spirit actually like did find peace and pass on.
Yeah. Because that's over 20 years ago now. So that happened to him. So nuts.
Okay.
Any thoughts?
The other stories, Steve?
Exactly. All right.
He's not a man of many words.
No, we like him that way.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on.
I have a bunch of other stories, but that was the longest one.
Okay.
So I don't know.
Oh, so to like backtrack, because we read this one on Reddit, right? You
yes.
found that on like r/scary stories.
Yeah.
I'm like really, really hoping there's a thread out there around the same time or more recently where it's like AITAH, am I the a-hole or am I the asshole? By his sister saying like, am I the asshole for like pranking my brother when we were teenagers and I haven't told him to this day or something? I'm like really hoping that's the case. But anyway, we'll see. Moving on to the next story.
Okay. Do you want to read it or me?
I can read it. You read a lot last time.
Okay.
So the title is, Was I Living with a Japanese Ghost or Just Too Tired? I'm a Brazilian with a Japanese ascendance.
I think descendants?
There's descendants, yeah. They're Brazilian Japanese, I'll just say. Okay. So I took the opportunity to take a work visa and lived in Japan by myself for 2 years. I'm really skeptic and have no religion and always laughed when people talked about ghosts, but that changed a bit in Japan. I had a very tough job in a car factory that got me exhausted every day and made me sleep almost instantly when I got to bed. After moving to an apartment closer to the factory, it was like a house with only one floor, but with other houses connected side by side, some strange things started happening, sometimes even making me stay awake. It started with the front door being unlocked in a handful of occasions. I'm pretty sure I always locked it. I live in Brazil after all, and everyone here has this habit. It was an electric lock that I had to insert a pin to unlock, and the job contractor that arranged the apartment rental for me instructed to reset the pin so that only I had the pin. No big deal. I thought that electronics sometimes fail, even though it was an expensive lock with a new battery on it. Next, another weird thing started happening. During the night, the hall lamp would light up by itself, and it was a motion-activated lamp. Again, no big deal. Electronics fail. Then another weird thing. Sometimes when I returned home from my work, the kitchen lights would all be on, and I always turn everything off after leaving. Well, maybe my memory was not good and I forgot it on, or I left it on. And one night around 3 a.m., I woke up with a hustling sound. With the dim light of a LED clock, I saw a plastic bag from the grocery store floating around. I thought that it was wind from a window or the AC and fell asleep again. But in the morning, I saw that all windows were shut and the AC was off, so there was no wind source. Then it got weirder. I've got chills as I'm typing it. Another night when returning home from work, lights were on again, and I had a huge feeling that someone was inside the apartment. The hairs on my arms all got up, and even with the goosebumps, I was thinking that maybe someone broke inside. I took a kitchen knife and looked at every corner of the apartment. Nothing, just the feeling that I was alone again. And to finish with style, when I was about to return to Brazil, the weirdest thing happened. Again, returning home from work late at night, I got the feeling that I was not alone, this time even stronger. The lights were off, so I entered with caution. Then, on the corner of my eye, in the dark bathroom, I saw what it looked like an old man inside the ofuro, the Japanese bathtub, with a towel on his forehead. I froze, not knowing what to do. After a few seconds, I took the courage and turned the lights on, looking directly at the bathroom, but it was empty, nobody in the furo. That night, I could not sleep. After that, I always left some light on, and until I left the apartment for good, nothing else happened. Sorry for the long story, but what do you guys think? Was it the toll of manual labor 12 hours a day? Was someone pranking or stalking me? Would love to hear if someone had experiences like that in Japan. Some people told me that Japan is a hotspot for ghosts.
I believe that it was a ghost.
I believe it was a ghost too.
Steve.
Keep your hands to yourself. Oh my God. Yeah.
I believe that was a ghost.
Yeah. It's always the bathroom. Like of all rooms in a house, the bathroom is like freaks me out the most. And I think that could be just like scary movies always like portray scary stuff happening in the bathroom. But like,
true,
especially if it's like an old school fudol, like, I do not like that. My house in Hawaii actually had like a deep old school fudol like that. It was like a standing shower, and then there was the fudol like next to it too. But that fudol, it was like, because I assume the house was old, it was stainless steel. Like it wasn't like the white, what is it, porcelain or tile or whatever. It was like metal. So it just looked super creepy. And I don't like anything to do with like ghosts and furo and stuff like that. So
okay.
Yeah, I believe you were living with a ghost, not just being tired.
Yep.
Too many things happening in there. Okay. Get the chills off. I got chills.
All right.
Okay.
They're multiplying. Okay. All right. This one is from r/Japan Life from 3 years ago. It's called My Japanese Ghost Story. What's yours? The only time I've ever seen a ghost is in Japan. It happened in late November 2016. I was living in an Airbnb apartment in Kyoto. I was sleeping on a futon on the tatami in the bedroom. One night, I woke up and was very awake. Suddenly, I saw a man in his early 60s in traditional Japanese dress walk from the right side of the room, then behind my head to the left side of the room, then disappear. He wasn't solid, but rather kind of transparent, but I could see enough of his face and clothing. He was looking ahead and just walked by without looking at me. It did not frighten me. I went back to sleep.
Okay.
I don't know if I could sleep after that.
Yeah.
Okay. Continuing. The next night was more creepy. I woke up again and I had an inkling the same thing was going to happen. Sure enough, the same ghost showed up. He started walking from the right side of the room, then behind my head, and when I looked to the left, I didn't see him. I thought it was odd. Suddenly, the edge of the blanket next to my left thigh began to rise. It must have risen about 1.5 feet as if someone were lifting it. In my mind, I screamed, "Stop it, leave me alone." After that, the haunting stopped. Through it all, I wasn't afraid. I thought I would be because I'm afraid of ghosts. I told my Japanese teacher who used to come to the apartment to give me language lessons, and she was totally terrified. I also told my Japanese friends about this, and they were more afraid than I was.
Maybe that's
interesting.
Yeah, that's the move. Maybe you just gotta like gaslight yourself into not being afraid. I mean, maybe this person actually wasn't that afraid, but like maybe.
But they said they were afraid of ghosts, so that's interesting.
Interesting how they like didn't react more, or like the first night they were like, "Oh, weird," and then went to sleep. Yeah, and the second night, like the blanket is lifting, and they're like, "Leave me alone."
That was odd.
But that's like, I think you mentioned too, like, you know, most ghosts won't hurt you, you know, like that's like one thing I like always have to remind myself is like they're just there. If they're there, they're just there. They're not gonna hurt you. And like
there's different types. Like some of them are just like a repeating apparition. Like it seems like this guy is just walking the same path every single night. Yeah. But he lifted the blanket too, so
yeah, I don't like that. I don't like that.
Okay, so there were a couple more stories in this thread that I wanted to read.
Yes. Shall we go? All right.
Let's go.
Okay, so this one is from 3 years ago. It says, I stayed at a monastery in Koyasan about a decade ago. Upon checking in, one of the monks assisting staff at the front began talking to me. He asked me what I was doing in Koyasan, what I want there, and if I had been there before. I didn't think much of the questions except we weren't talking directly. It was as if I was imagining him talking to me. I told my wife about the experience after getting to our room. I had vivid dreams of a father I hadn't spoken to for 10 plus years, where I forgave him, sitting across from his identity. I dreamt of chanting in the room. I woke up at 5 a.m. to pray with other Japanese worshippers on an on-site shrine. We chanted, lit candles, took a tour to see pictures of monks who had led the monastery in the past. I had never chanted or prayed like this in a Japanese shrine before. We left Koyasan. Something was off. I talked to a fish at dinner later in the day at a town called Naruto near Tokushima. I could sense its fear as it had been sliced alive. This was the start. For about a year, I had all sorts of vivid encounters. I dreamed incessantly about returning to Koyasan, that my life was a waste, the monastery could help me. I dreamt often talking with the monk, him wanting me to return to Koyasan to help him with the facilities. I was incredibly depressed during this period. I talked often of the dreams with my wife. One day, I had enough and wished the monk would set himself on fire to get away from my thoughts. That night, I dreamt of setting my apartment on fire and pouring gasoline on my body.
Oh my gosh.
It was so real. Scary stuff. And that was the last I saw, dreamt, or thought of it. I have been back to Koyasan again without a similar experience. Pretty surreal stuff and definitely haunting. Dun,
That's
dun,
wild.
Dun.
So Koyasan is an area in Wakayama Prefecture that's known for their
Like
for
pilgrimage?
Buddhism.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I see.
And there's like a cemetery there called Okunoin, which is a very spiritual
I see.
place.
And so people from all over can just go there and like
Yeah,
pray.
you can stay at a temple and pray with the monks and stuff.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, cool.
Yeah. So, okay.
Okay. Ooh. Let's shake out the scary vibes. All right.
Alrighty, next one.
Mm-hmm.
Not my own story to tell, but I don't think my friend would mind me sharing it here. Friend of mine from more than 4 years ago was helping a friend move into her new place. It seemed like she was kind of moving into somewhere that was already occupied. A ghost would leave a few 1 yen coins scattered across the room and inside the closet. The eerie part of it was that the dropping of coins could be heard sporadically in the night. After a few nights of ignoring it, it seemed as if the presence was getting annoyed by her ignoring it. My friend offered to stay with her for the first weekend to help support her, but things only escalated. After that weekend, my friend said that in the middle of the night, picture frames came off the walls, pots and pans were rattling, and the cupboard doors under the sink would fly open and shut. Side note, seems crazy, but when he was retelling it to me, I could still feel that he was pretty shaken up by it. After staying there for 2 nights, she ended up just staying at his for the week until her coworkers could offer any real help. That following Friday, she went home after work to find that there were 1 yen coins scattered everywhere, across the floor, the cupboards, and in the corners of the closet. The odd thing she mentioned to my friend was that previously she hadn't noticed little piles of salt, small saucers of salt outside her neighbor's doors. It seems like the neighbors knew what was up. Mm-hmm. From what I can remember, she ended up staying at her own place again because she kind of accepted the fact that this was going to be part of her life now.
Okay.
Her coworkers eventually brought someone in, whether that was a priest from a church or a shrine, I can't remember. But this guy basically said that a kid had died there and the boy was just stuck in our world. Things didn't really escalate much, only when she had visitors. Over time, occurrence became less frequent and so did the 1 yen thing. But she always told my friend that whenever she found 1 yen, it felt as if the boy was letting her know he was still there.
Hell nah. Mm-mm. Well, I wonder why the coins. I mean, if he's just a little boy, maybe he was, I don't know, playing. And do you think he was like, he had it with like bad intentions? Or do you think he was, I mean, if he's like a kid, then he's probably just like messing around with stuff.
Yeah, but he doesn't like guests.
Oh, apparently not, yeah. Maybe a guest was the reason why he is stuck there.
Maybe. So, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm freaking myself out with like all of these theories. Okay.
All right.
Shall we move on?
I have a few more stories.
Okay.
So I found a couple of these in r/Japan Life, a thread called Scary Stories from Japan.
Okay. Oh, not Okinawa. I want to go there soon. Shall I read this one or would you like to?
Yes, please.
Okay, it looks very long. All right, let's get into it. Okinawa. So I have a story from Okinawa. It's long. I used to live in a small apartment on a hill in Kitanaka-gushuku, Okinawa. Gusuku, Okinawa. Did I say that right? Sorry.
I'm not sure what area that is.
It's a very long word in Romaji. At the bottom of the hill and along the road leading up to my apartment were grave sites. It's Okinawa, so they're everywhere. The weekend I moved in, I decided to have a housewarming party with my closest friends. Orion, Strong Zeros, and taco rice. At that time, I didn't drink, so I often facilitated the shenanigans of my drunk friends by willingly driving them anywhere. My friend Takuma had the brilliant idea to go to the Nakagusuku castle ruins and to the old haunted hotel. Why not, right? We piled into my little Subaru Impreza, turned up some LMFAO, it was 2011, and started driving. Shot. As we got closer to the ruins, I got freezing cold. It's September in Okinawa, so it's easily 28 degrees Celsius at night. Nothing cold about it. We were all in the car shivering. My very well-maintained car started sputtering and died. I started it back up immediately, but everyone thought it was strange. And finally, my friend's watch stopped working. It was a brand new Breitling he received from his grandfather. Is that correct?
No idea.
We stopped on the side of the road to take in all of the weird stuff that just happened. Another friend in the car started sobbing out of nowhere. She kept saying that we need to go home and they're not happy. She wasn't religious or spiritual or anything of the sort, but was speaking of spirits warning her. Something was up. I turned around and drove home just as fast as we left. I wasn't taking any chances. We got to my place and I broke my diet for a glass of whiskey. We all sat around in silence for a bit. There wasn't much joking or, whoa, what was that about? The mood was almost somber. We drank in this strange, polite mood until everyone fell asleep. The next afternoon, well after everyone left, my friend Takuma came over with his mother to finish helping with the move. She got to the door and freaked out. She left for an hour and came back with salt, incense, sage, a couple of charms, and was chanting around my apartment and sprinkling salt everywhere. She told me not to dispose of the salt for at least 7 days. 7 days?
Oh.
I don't like that number, okay? Sorry. We never told her about the night before. Okinawa is well known to be haunted. For a long time, I thought it was just a bunch of exaggerated ghost stories. You hear about the cliffs where people jump or the ghost GI who asks for a light, but you don't think much about it. This was 11 years ago and it still feels fresh.
Oh.
Okay.
The temperature thing.
Yeah, the temperature thing is freaky. The temperature thing is freaky.
The car stopping, the watch stopping.
Like everything is freaky about it. Like they just went into a place where like they would be stranded, you know, if like because your car stopped working, you know, like
that's true.
They really almost just got stuck there. The creepiest thing to me was like the mom coming in and like even though no one told her about anything, she was just like
something's off.
Yeah, she like
salt.
started. How many? I mean, it's got to be for like all kinds of cultures, I assume, because like salt is a big, you know, thing in Japan to like ward off ghosts. And same as Hawaii too. Like you use like Hawaiian salt, like pure Hawaiian salt to, you know, purify like.
Do you leave it like outside the door or in the house?
No, I think if there's, I'm gonna sound so bad because I don't remember because I haven't had this happen to me personally, but I think you sprinkle it like around your house.
Oh, okay.
Or I haven't seen anyone like put it on a plate and leave it outside, but usually like you sprinkle the Hawaiian salt too, and especially like sorry, sidetrack, but like a lot of movies are filmed in Hawaii, like Jurassic Park, Jumanji, you know, all of those things, Hunger Games as well, and of course, you know, Hawaii has a history of people like Okinawa, you know, like there's just a lot of like spiritual presence there, and so movies you need to get. And like before you build anything or renovate anything in Hawaii, you need like permission or you need a Hawaiian priest to come to like bless or like, you know, purify what you're gonna build on. And so movies like Hollywood productions and stuff have done that. But the crew for Hunger Games, when they're filming, I think the second one, when they're like on a jungle, whatever, they didn't do that. And all kinds of weird stuff happened on the set and stuff. And like some people got like injured and stuff. So like we're like very firm believers of like purifying the space and stuff too. So I understand where like the mom is coming from. But yeah, I never thought about like how many cultures use salt. And like why that is.
Yeah.
I don't know. All right. I'll look into it, I guess.
Okay. All right. Then we just have a couple short ones.
Okay.
So this one is from a listener. So I think they were teaching English. So they said, I once had a kiddo, maybe 5-ish years old, who asked me to tell the scary lady in the Genkan to stop staring at her. Of course, there was no one there. The kiddo was insistent. There was a woman standing in the Genkan entrance, screaming over an empty stroller about her lost baby. I think the creepiest part was how not scared the kid was. Yeah. She was insistent I do something about it, but seemed more annoyed or exasperated with this invisible lady than anything else.
It's always kids, huh?
Yeah.
Kids and animals.
Have a sense
too.
Kids
have a sense. Kids and animals, yeah. My friend's little brother would like say random stuff like that too in their house. And it's like, okay.
All right.
Another listener story we have before I get started. What does that say?
Kuchisake onna.
Okay. All right. What is that?
The slit-mouthed woman.
Oh my God. Okay. So they said, I went for a walk one evening in my town's Oteramachi when I saw a woman swaying ominously under a street lamp across the temple graveyard. I ran home right away. She was giving such Kuchisake onna vibes with her outfit and position and all.
It's creepy.
Yeah. So again, Kuchisake onna, so it's a
slit-mouthed woman?
Like the Joker, like on both sides? Or is this like an actual thing? Like a lore in Japan?
Yeah, she's an urban legend. But we're going to talk about her more in depth in the next episode.
Okay.
But yeah, she's the slit-mouthed woman. It's a very common urban legend.
Oh, I guess I have something to look forward to, I guess.
Yay.
Yeah. We're going to find out why she has a slit mouth and everything?
Yes.
Okay. Then that'll be interesting.
Yeah. All right. A couple lighthearted stories to end with. So, okay. This one came from Reddit as well. Here's a true one. One hot summer night, maybe 28 or 29 years ago, I was living in a cheap old apartment with no air conditioning. Tokyo summers are hot and humid, so I slept with the balcony veranda door open a couple of centimeters. My apartment hadn't come with screens, and I didn't have enough money for them. One night, I was sleeping when a sudden noise woke me up. I sat up in the dark with my eyeglasses in the kitchen. I saw nothing and heard nothing more, so assuming I'd been dreaming, I went back to sleep. Next, I was awakened by the sound of light footfalls right next to my futon. I jumped up, but I saw nothing, and again went back to sleep. Next, something brushed across my face.
Oh my God.
It turned out a cat had nosed open the window and started walking around my room. I hadn't seen it because it was small and black and it froze when I jumped up. Its tail had swept across my face when I was startled the third time.
Oh my God. Okay, good. I was going to say, like, I hope it's like at least a bug or something, but the cat checks out. Okay, good. That's kind of cute.
I would be so scared to sleep with the balcony like
open like that
window
for
open?
Like bugs or like just
yes. Well, I mean people,
yeah,
but bugs.
Yeah, bugs get in, especially because they said it's like
spiders will come in or something.
Yeah, they said it's summer. Yeah.
Yes. That's when all the critters come out.
I mean, if it wasn't a cat brushing your face, I just thought it was a spider.
Oh.
Yeah.
But speaking of critters, I do want to do like a full episode about all the creepy crawlies.
The creepy crawlies. Okay, sounds good.
All right, last one.
Before we start the last one, they said it's a cat. Did they say it's a black cat?
A little black cat.
Still freaky. Okay. All right. Our last story from a listener, very short. They said, in Kyoto, I thought I saw a body in the river. I told the local in my broken Japanese, it was litter. Okay. Dang, how big was that litter to where you thought it was a body?
It was like a full trash bag, maybe.
Maybe, yeah. A trash bag with a body.
It could have been.
Oh my gosh. Can you imagine though? Like, there's a body in there. And they like, it's trash. Oh man.
Yeah. Okay. I think this was a long episode.
Yeah. We talked a lot about nice, scary experiences. They're very creepy.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm going to get some salt today.
Yeah. You should.
Oh, that was a thing I forgot to mention. So with Hawaii and Hawaiian salt, you bathe in it too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Which maybe we can talk about that other story I had in another episode. I forgot to ask my cousin the details on that one. But yeah. Okay.
All right. Yeah. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this, let us know. If there's any topics you want us to cover about Japan in general, leave a comment.
Yes.
Or you can email us anytime.
Where?
conbinicultpod@gmail.com.
One more time.
conbinicultpod@gmail.com.
All right.
Thanks for listening, watching. Catch you in the next one.
See ya.
Bye. Ooh.